Yes, if you look in the distance, you can see the tollway booths. Yes, we do have tollways, even in Córdoba, Argentina. Cannot get away from tollways. I decided to get the zip pass, which is called telepase here, and that way I don't have to stop and pay. I just zip through it, and it's very convenient. Okay, please open. All right, here we go. Ooh, I see a lot of stormy looking clouds there. I don't know if those are going or coming. I hope they're leaving. And this is the University of Córdoba, the Catholic University. This is a private university. That's the campus. It is very good, but I must tell you that the public universities are even better here. Cordoba has the first university in the country and one of the first in all of South America. Anybody can come to study at the University of Cordoba. It doesn't matter if you are a resident or a citizen. Anybody from anywhere in the world can come to study at the University of Cordoba for free. Yes, you're hearing me right. Totally free. You can become a doctor, an architect, a musician, a whatever it is, and you don't pay a cent. Yes, it's still one of those few places in the world where education is open and free to everyone. Well, I have arrived. I'm in the city. Cordoba is at almost 1.5 million people city, so it's a big. I see a little cafe espresso van where people are getting their coffee. Argentines love their coffee and 2 croissants in the morning. That's the breakfast. As for myself, I'm still stick with the oatmeal and my herbal tea and the fruit, things like that. So I'm getting to the street where I grew up. Street here, and I'm turning, and I promise you that my mother is waiting outside. She's usually outside by the sidewalk, anxiously waiting for her son. So let's see if she is outside. What did I tell you? There she is. There's a lady that cleans every day. And there she is. That's my mother. Hello, I'm Gustavo Tolosa. I'm here in Cordoba, Argentina at my mother's house. Her name is Raquel, and we're so excited to cook for you today. We're going to make 3 great recipes. So, how are you today?
Very good. Hello. I'm very happy too because I'm with my son and we will cooking for you.
So first we will get started with the torrejitas or torrejas de zapallo, or in English, butternut squash patties. These are a great snack, or they can be a dessert as well. I remember when I was little being so excited the day that my grandmother would make these because they're so almost crunchy on the outside and soft and creamy on the inside, and when you bite it and you get that sweetness of the raisins and that nice taste of the lemon is just delicious. But these are totally plant-based and vegan, and I think they're going to become a favorite of yours. So this recipe, I'm going to make it, and I'm going to let my mother make the main dish because she is a master of the Valencia style rice. So we're gonna do this one first because these will be in the oven cooking while we make the other two recipes. So here we go. We will start with the main ingredient, which is the butternut squash, which I have cut into little cubes and steamed it. I didn't boil it because I don't want it to absorb even more water than what it already has. So I steamed it and then I pureed it. It needs to be very, very smooth. So make sure that there are no lumps. And we will use 1.5 cups of this puree. So, you could try this with the pumpkin that comes in a can. And if you do that, that is already 1.5 cups, so you don't have to be doing this. I've never made it with pumpkin. I've made it with the butternut squash, and that is what my grandmother used to make it with. So that's why I'm giving you this recipe. And that's 1 cup. Here is 1/2 cup, and you want to press so that there is quite, so that it's exactly 1/2. And there we go. So we have 1.5 cups of the butternut squash. What about the rest? Well, let me tell you what. I don't know if you've seen my other videos, but when you make mashed potatoes, if you add this to your mashed potatoes, it's going to make your mashed potatoes even creamier. It's going to give it a little bit of sweetness to it. I love to combine this with mashed potatoes, or you can eat it just like this as a side dish. So we have a little bit left. This was a whole butternut squash that was small in size. To that, we're going to add 1/2 cup of apple sauce. Of course, I made this apple sauce myself. I just got 2 apples. I put them, I cut them, and I boiled them with just a tiny bit of cinnamon, very, very little, like 1/2 teaspoon. And those 2 apples are exactly, or almost, maybe it'll be a little more, but you only need 1/2 cup. This, what it's doing, this is replacing the egg that the recipe has, but we're not going to use egg, so this is 1/2 cup. Now we will add the 1/4 cup of raisins, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and now the very important ingredient. Do not leave this out, because this makes the whole thing just brilliant. It's the touch of genius. It's this lemon. I've tried it before, and it's just not quite. This lemon, when you grind it, it just makes all the difference. This is a large lemon, and you want to use something like this to grind it. So here we go. Make sure that you don't get the white part, because that is the very bitter part of the lemon. So you just want mostly the yellow part. And my grandmother's name was Aurora, and she was a major influence in my life. She lived with us all my life, and besides her cooking abilities, she also played the piano. So you can see now how there are at least 3 generations of musicians in my family, but actually it goes even further back. And we would spend time together in our house in the mountains, and she would be my pal, and of course, she spoiled me. So now we are ready. Let's go ahead and mix this. We have the pumpkin and the applesauce, the raisins, the vanilla, and the lemon, and it just smells very good at this point. You want to really mix this because the apple needs to be totally incorporated with the pumpkin, and you can see that. Also, you want the raisins evenly distributed so that you're not going to get 5 raisins in one torreja and none in the other, or 1 in the other. So you want to be very, just mix it. Okay, I think we've mixed it enough. And now, instead of putting flour, which is what my grandmother used to put, which of course is not going to be so horrible especially if you make this every once in a while. But I made my own oat flour. I got 2 cups of oats and I put it in the processor and I made flour. So this will take at least a cup. I think it takes a cup and a half. It will depend on how moist your butternut squash is. So you have to be monitoring. So this part here of the demonstration is very important because you will see the consistency that we're looking for. The consistency has to be kind of firm, actually. It is not a batter like the ones that we use, let's say, when we're making muffins, that is kind of watery. This is a very particular, so you're gonna look and see. Now, if you want this to be sweeter, you could also add half a cup of dates, but the dates would have to be soaked, of course, no seeds, and soaked, and then I would put them in a food processor or blender to make paste, or you could just buy a paste and put it there, because the original recipe also had about 1/4 to a half a cup of just plain sugar, but we're not doing that. Now, for many of us who don't eat too much sugar anymore, this is going to be totally fine without anything, without the dates, without sugar, without anything. But if you're making this for regular people, you might want to add something sweeter. Okay, it will also depend on how sweet the butternut squash is. I think this is a little bit too watery still. So I'm going to add, it needs to be a little bit firmer. I'm going to add about 1/4 of a cup of the oats, and I will see how that is. I don't want to add too much because it's easier to add than to take away. But you want this to later, with an ice cream scoop, to take it out, and so that when you drop it on the baking sheet, is not going to lose its shape. I'm gonna go ahead and add. Okay, so I added about 1/4 of a cup. Sometimes, the other day that I made them for me, it took 1.5 cups actually. But today, I think we're fine like this. So you can see, I just want you to see, this is very important that the texture is kind of like mashed potatoes. It still falls from the spoon, but it's quite firm. Could it take a little more? Yeah, it could. Now my hands are clean. I'm going to my hand, this feels very wet, so I will have to add a little more. You know, it's weird how it cannot feel so wet. So I added then a 1/2 cup. So it's 1.5 cups of both, 1.5 cups of the butternut squash and 1.5 cups of the oats. Yeah, now it's feeling a little better. Could it take even 2 cups? I think it might, or almost 2 cups. Let's see here. Okay, so now it takes longer for it to fall. That's about it. Okay, so we're ready now to make these torrejas and put them in the oven. So I have lined up a baking sheet with parchment paper. You can use a silicone sheet. I'm just using this because I noticed that they don't stick to this, and sometimes they stick to the silicone sheet, although it may have done that because the time that I made them and put them in the silicone sheet, they were too wet. That might have been why they got stuck. So I thought my mother had an ice cream scoop, but she doesn't, so I'm just gonna use a tablespoon, and I will start putting them here. Then I'll show you what we do. So it's about this size. Really, it's about a tablespoon. Now, with a fork, you will need to press them down a little and start shaping them. And I think it's good, it's kind of cute to see the marks that the fork leaves. And I'm noticing that some of these could have been bigger. So that's why it is important to use the ice cream scoop, which unfortunately I didn't have today. I was going to bring it, and I thought, well, my mother probably has one, but she doesn't. So they are a little bit uneven in size, but it is okay. I really want to hear your comments when you make them. So you can see how I have, they're not very thick, about that much, and they're ready to go. They're going to go in the oven, which is at 375, and we will bake them for about 20 minutes, for 20 minutes on this side. Then I will take them out and flip them, and 20 more minutes on the other side. We want them to be a really nice golden brown on both sides. So now we're going to move on to the soup because it needs to be refrigerated, and the soup has 2 pounds of Roma tomatoes. You want to get the ones that are very ripe. You want that sweetness to it, and we will wash them. I have my helper here and we'll wash them. I will wash them, and she will cut them in half and core them. We don't want to have any of the hard part like yellow or white. We want the actual tomatoes. So, and we're gonna cut them and put them in the food processor together with the other ingredients, which I'm going to tell you what they are as we go. So there's one. Now I have one extra. I have a pound plus one tomato because we want to have an extra one to garnish later on. Very good. You're a very good cook. So there they're going. This is such an easy recipe and delicious recipe. And while she's doing that, I'm going to wash the green pepper. The cucumber needs to be peeled and seeded, unless you get an English cucumber, which doesn't have as much seeds and it's not so watery, so you can do that. I didn't have an English cucumber, so and we're going to save. This is a little bit larger than medium, so I'm going to save a little bit for later for garnishing. And the other thing that goes in there is a large garlic clove or 2 small ones. And they're just chopped like that. You don't have to chop them small, and they also go in the food processor. And this soup is, no, not that. And the soup is supposed to be served cold. It's a wonderful appetizer, and then comes the main dish. Okay, the other thing that goes in there is 2 tablespoons of sherry vinegar. If you don't have sherry vinegar, you may use red wine vinegar. So I'm going to put that. Excuse me. Okay. And it will take 3/4 of a cup of cold water, which I have right here. Here's the cold water. And in some of the recipes, they call for bread that has been soaked in water. This is to add some starch and to thicken the soup, but we're not going to use bread. So we will use half a cup of oats that have been also ground into flour. But another way that you can try this, and this is not traditional, but I'm just telling you that you could use, look at that, cored, seeded cucumber. Yeah, that's a no. And what was I saying? Let's see. Oh, that you can steamed a small potato and then cut it into pieces. It needs to be very soft, and you can put that in there to thicken the soup and to add some starch. That you will not see that in any gazpacho soup, but that would be a starch-based, a starchivore version of the gazpacho soup. So everything is in the blender, and other than the half cup of oats here, I'm gonna go ahead and measure it. Let's see, half a cup is here. It will take some a teaspoon, or actually half of a teaspoon of pepper. Remember that Spanish food is not very hot, spicy hot. So this is the oats. And in some parts of Spain, you will also use a little bit of cumin. And so this, we will go ahead and do it. The cumin is half a teaspoon of cumin and half a teaspoon of the black pepper. Okay, so let's do that. So now we're adding half a teaspoon of cumin and half a teaspoon of black pepper. And if you don't like cumin, you can leave it out. That is, the cumin is the gazpacho that is more from the south of Spain, so not in every region of Spain you will have the cumin. And so now it's time to process it. Before we process it, we are going to take out the torrejas from the oven and see how they're doing. Okay, let's see how these are doing. It smells really good in here. Look at that. I'm going to show you how they're getting brown. So these are getting very nice and crunchy on the outside, but they remain nice and soft and creamy on the inside. You can tell that the ones that were in the back of the oven got a little browner. So I'm going to shift the baking sheet here so that these get brown now. So another 20 minutes and they will be done. Back to the soup, and let's plug this in and process it. It might make a loud noise, so I'm going to put some music for you. After about a minute or so, you want to stir it a little because sometimes there are chunks there on the side. And some people may like it like this, kind of chunky. Personally, I like it very smooth, so I will keep processing it for another minute. I still see some chunks, so I'm going to mix it a little bit more by hand here. make sure. And then this is going to go in the refrigerator for at least 2 or 3 hours. But to tell you the truth, this is better if you leave it there in the refrigerator for 24 hours. It's going to make a big difference in how the flavors blend. I don't add salt now because we all know that we add salt as we eat the food, so that the saltiness doesn't get diluted. But if you use salt, you will use it as you serve it, and if not, you can just enjoy it fresh like this. So I'm going to give it another processing here, and then it'll be done. So this goes now in a glass jar. It can go in any container, of course, but you can, if you put it in a nice glass jar, then you will be able to serve it from there. And here is a nice glass jar, and we will do the best to not make a mess here. And this is going to be covered with saran wrap, and goes to the refrigerator. Can you freeze this? Yes, you can. You can freeze it for up to 3 months probably. And in the refrigerator, it may last 3-4 days. But I'll tell you, this is so delicious. I don't think it's gonna last that long. You could eat this for lunch, for dinner, for breakfast, for a snack. Even though this is not done, I'm just going to give it a little sample to see how it came out. But it's not only important for it to cool down a lot, it's important for it to blend the flavor. So this is really not how it's going to taste, but I'm just curious. It's very good, very good. Those tomatoes are sweet, and you can taste the spiciness of the garlic and the freshness of the cucumber, and that green pepper is delicious. So now we will cover this glass pitcher with saran wrap. And can you give me the el plástico? To the refrigerator. Now, we already have another pitcher in the refrigerator that has been sitting there for 24 hours. So when we taste it, we will be tasting the one that is 24 hours in the refrigerator, but this one is going now there. Remember, before you serve it, you want to stir it really well and then serve it. And then I'll show you how to actually garnish it. So now we are going to move on to the main dish. I'm going to be watching carefully because I have to learn how to make this rice. This rice, my grandmother used to make it. Now my mother makes it. My grandmother's mother made it, and it is absolutely delicious. It's people that, you know, when she makes it and invites people over, they just cannot just stop eating it. It is truly addictive, and of course, it's all now is plant-based, oil-free, vegan, and it still keeps the same vibrant flavors that I think you're going to love and enjoy. And I think this is going to become one of your favorite rice recipes. We are using, or she's using, white rice, but you can use brown rice. So now, since we're talking about rice and we're talking about starch, and we're talking about white rice and brown rice, we will bring Dr. Diego Ponyman from New York, and while we're making this rice, he is going to talk to us about the benefits of rice and how it can help with many illnesses that you can prevent and even reverse with rice. So let's get started with the recipe. Okay, ready? So here she's going to put, what are you going to put there? Onions. 1 cup of onions in a hot pan.
Más.
Notice how that pan is deep. It's a deep pan because it will need to take a lot of liquid. I'm sorry to tell you, but I don't think that this is an instant pot recipe. So it's 2 cups of finely chopped onions. Okay. There are some things that are siempre moviendo, always stirring it, and some things are just a little more sophisticated and takes a little more time, and so it's better if you cook it this way. Now this is 1 tablespoon of chopped garlic. I'll do it. 1 tablespoon of chopped garlic. You want to reserve another tablespoon or even 2 tablespoons of chopped garlic for later, for when it's almost done. Okay? Now we're waiting. ¿Sí? Esta receta la aprendiste de tu madre.
Yes. Yes,
Y ella la hacía, qué sé yo, una vez a la semana o una vez al mes.
Yes. Usually for Sunday.
Usually it was a Sunday meal.
Yes.
A veces eran ñoquis. Yeah. Only if they fell on the 29th, though. But ¿qué más?
Por favor, en la pieza verde vas a tener que cortar chiquito, vos lo tomas.
So she is telling me that I have to chop the 5 tomatoes. I'm going to be the chopper.
Chiquitos.
Very small. Now these are Roman tomatoes, and they're kind of medium size. They're not small. And we're going to cut the part that has this and discard that. And she wants me to chop these now. So if there is a hard core there, you want to take that out because it's just too tough, you know. So take that core out, and I told her, believe me or not, yo te dije que tenías que tener todo cortado y preparado.
No, because it's not necessary, no.
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
I need the pepper now.
Now you're going to see us fight a little bit. Pepper? ¿Dónde está el
Red
pepper?
pepper, and this is
Oh,
red and green pepper.
no, not paper, pepper.
Pepper. I'm sorry, pepper.
You don't want to put paper there. So this is 1.5 cups of green and red peppers chopped. Basically, what it is 2 medium-sized peppers. 2 medium-sized peppers. one medium red pepper and one medium green pepper, chopped very finely. And
Very good.
while she is doing that and continuing my chopping work here, that is been cooking now for a while, maybe 10 minutes or so.
Okay, ready.
Okay, so that's ready.
Very good. Okay. Y ahora me tenés que medir cuando dentro de un momentito para el arroz, la medida del arroz.
And then the rice, which we're using white rice, but you could use brown rice. But this is white rice, and it is 1 heaping cup of the rice. Okay, it needs to, she says that it needs to cook and for a little while.
And now I will put more tomato.
¿Y los otros los guardas para otra cosa?
No.
Ah. Okay, she's putting all of the tomato. Okay.
Okay, this is better.
So while that is cooking for another 10 minutes or 15 minutes, we're going to bring Dr. Diego Ponyman all the way from New York so that he can talk to us a little bit about rice. And I just want to make sure that we have the connection. Let's see. Are you there, Dr. Diego Ponyman? Well, it worked. Thank you for being here, Dr. Ponyman, and I really appreciate it while we're cooking that you join us for a few minutes. Dr. Ponyman, as many of you know, is a physician who is in New York and has, many years. You can tell us a little bit about your years of practicing as a physician in New York, and anything else you want to tell us. And then, of course, since we're making rice, talking a little bit about rice and the myths of rice.
Hola, Gustavo. How are you? And it did work. What a pleasure to be here with you. It's always a pleasure seeing you cooking. It's amazing. Those delicious food now with your mom. So congratulations once again for what you're doing. And I'm here in New York, saving lives with this, element which is called a stethoscope, but mostly talking to people about food, believe it or not. And that's my life here in New York. And I've been in New York since 1995. So it's already been 25 years, believe it or not. And I've been a physician almost another 5 years in Argentina. So I've been a physician altogether for 30 years. But what brought us here today is, and what I want to talk to you a little bit is about rice. What a bad press, unfortunately, rice has. And why? What's the reason, Gustavo? It's, I think, the popularity of the low carbs diets, basically, and mostly it's the thing to blame because of this bad press. But I have to tell you that rice is such a noble food. Gustavo, rice has everything that we need, but mostly it has this complex of vitamin B, as B, like capital B as boy, B1, B5, B6. And this is extremely important for our organism to work. And I always talk to my patients about rice, and we always, concentrate on Asia, because you have to go to Asia. Asia has been thriving on rice for 10,000 years or more. And always people in my practice, my patients, relate Asian people, China, Japan, Vietnam, Cambodia. I mean, I can keep going and going. And we talk and we think about thin people, right? And again, they eat rice, Gustavo, 3 times a day, morning, for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. Now, is that possible? Absolutely, absolutely. And if you see how the world evolved, and now we talk about globalization, in the 80s, Gustavo, you start seeing the chronic diseases that we see here starting to appear in Asia. So now you start, since the 80s, we see the race on obesity, on high blood pressure, diabetes, prostate, and breast cancer. And why is that? If they were, living on rice for, thousands of years, because we introduced the American diet into these cultures. And lo and behold, then we introduced as well the chronic diseases. So let me tell you a little bit, and I haven't invented, this is not something that I came up. And we were discussing, some other time with you about this amazing work that a doctor, a physician at Duke University, and he was working for years. He was born in the early 20th century, 1903, 1902, I think, Walter Kempner. And he started treating patients on a time that there was no medication for hypertension, no medication for kidney disease. So the only thing, he decided to put them on, a diet. Gustavo, normal blood pressure, 120/80. Often in the office, I see, like it happened to me yesterday, for example, a patient coming with a blood pressure of 200/100. It's extremely high. Well, now we have medication. Back then, no medication. So Dr. Kepner put these patients on a rice diet. Yes, sir, a rice diet and some fruit. And he was curing heart disease, hypertension in the times where there was no medication. I'm not saying that we should not use medication. Please don't get me. I don't want to say that, but this tells you about the benefits of a rice diet and what this guy did, in the early 20th century. Another thing about rice, Gustavo, fiber. I told you about the vitamins. I'm going to tell you about the fiber. Fiber, Dennis Burkitt, I don't know if people heard about the Burkitt lymphoma. This was a guy, physician, surgeon from the UK, and he discovered not only Burkitt lymphoma that we know nowadays, but also he saw, I think he's the father of lifestyle medicine. He saw the relationship, Gustavo, between fiber and colon cancer. Amazing. So he said, in America, we have a problem with constipation. So we have too few stools in this country. That makes huge hospitals. So few stools, big hospitals. That's the problem here. The solve of this problem, fiber. What does brown rice specifically? Because brown rice is the unprocessed way of rice. It has mostly a lot of fiber. It has antioxidants. We know that oxidative stress is what gives us problem, those free radicals. What does antioxidants do? It prevents us from having chronic diseases. So I can keep going and going, but these are a few of the properties of this great noble food, as I call it, which is rice.
Well, yes. Thank you for making it so clear, so easy to understand. And would you just say a few words about white or brown rice? A lot of people, of course, say the brown rice it's healthier because it has more fiber. But looking back, like you were saying, to these populations of people that have lived on white rice and before the American diet arrived in their countries, they were, trim and mostly very healthy. But what would you say about white and brown rice?
Yeah, so often, mostly I work in El Barrio, in Harlem, and most of my population is Latino, and they're used to white rice. And that's fine. I always tell them that before the white rice, we used to do, and even in China, in Asia, they used to do brown rice. But then, people start processing the food. And actually, so the white rice, all what it is the brown rice, but they take, some properties. They take fiber, they take nutrients, they, take a little bit of water. So basically, what you can tell is that white rice is still actually, Dr. Kempner's diet was white rice. So for some people that they say they cannot tolerate the brown rice, white rice is fine. But remember, brown rice has 3 times, almost 3.5 times the fiber compared to white rice. So brown rice, more fiber, more nutrients, more antioxidants, more phytochemicals. It's much better brown rice. But if you ask me, I tell people it's better. I mean, if they want to do white rice, of course, they're going to leave aside some of the properties of the brown rice, but it's still a good food. And again, let me stress on this, Dr. Kempner in the 20th century, he used to treat people with hypertension, heart disease with white rice and some fruit and fruit juice. So that's basically, and remember, you have this. I want to stress the importance of people always talking about, what about the protein? Well, rice has the right amount of protein for us to live. So there's no issue with, the protein. And remember, brown rice, much more properties. But I tell my patients, you want to have white rice, go ahead and have white rice. As you mentioned, people in Asia had white rice for years, and they were thriving on this great diet.
Well, thank you so much for making the time to join us for a few minutes here.
Always a pleasure, Gustavo. And I'm so glad it worked. The connection today,
Yes.
all the connections worked. So we could talk from so far away. So I want to, say, thank you. And hopefully we'll be talking very soon. And say hi to your mom, please. Okay.
The sauce is ready. And now I need to put the rice.
Okay, this is 1 cup of rice. It's a heaping cup of rice. ¿Y el azafrán también? Oh no. Oh.
El agua.
Now you need 3 cups of hot water. And we're going to measure it. 1, 2, 3. 3 cups of hot water. And we mix in half a teaspoon of saffron. If you have really, really good saffron, you only need half a teaspoon. If it's not very strong, or if it's a mixture, you might need a whole tablespoon.
And 2
Teaspoon.
garbanzos. I will put the water. First a little.
Okay, and then there's also garbanzo beans that are already cooked. She cooked them in the Instant Pot, or you can just buy a can. And we're going to measure how much this is, because she does it all by eyesight. Vamos a medirla. 1 cup, 2 cups.
Okay.
2 cups of garbanzo beans. And there's still some of the water here that she has reserved, but she will use it as the rice
Okay.
starts
No more.
touching.
Yes,
No se
the
toca.
rice. No.
Y el fuego es muy fuerte.
No.
Medium.
Sí, medium.
Medium
Okay.
heat.
I will put a little water. Y dejo esta para cuando vea que se seca.
And then she leaves this much, maybe half a cup or 3/4 of a cup, for later, when she notices that the rice is absorbing and it's getting dry.
Okay, can you give me please the garlic?
Now comes 1/3 cup of parsley, chopped very fine. You want to pack that garlic in that
I have
parsley.
my hands very clean. I
Yeah.
need to put it with my hand.
Yes, yes. So that's 1/3 cup packed of chopped garlic. I mean, I keep saying garlic, chopped parsley. And there's also another tablespoon, 1 to 1.5 tablespoons
Okay.
of chopped garlic.
This is a garlic.
Y lo tapas o queda así descubierto.
No,
It's not, she doesn't cover it, it stays
no,
open.
but from time to time I need to move. Okay. Que acá ves, no se
Yeah.
ve el fuego.
She kind of turns it, she looks where it's not boiling, and so every few minutes she turns it one side, the other side, and so forth. And then if it's needed, she will add the rest of the water.
And you can see so beautiful colors.
That we have there is a piece of art.
And
Yellow.
And smell very,
Oh.
very good.
Oh yes, it's red, bright orange, yellow, green, white. And not only does it look amazing, it's already smelling. I want to eat it now. But we still have another while until our guests come. Okay, she says that you have to try it, you have to taste from the sides to make sure that it's soft. Because if the sides are not soft, that means that it's not done yet.
I need to put a little water.
A little more water.
Do you remember the
Yes.
water? Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing that takes some extra time, and that is every now and then moving the pan around so that all the sides will get cooked. She turned on the heat a little higher and to make sure that this side gets the amount of heat as well. Okay, so
And now
she's going to
turn off,
the stove.
and you need to no move. Rest for 15 minutes.
Okay,
15 minutes. Okay.
15 minutes to rest there, to sit, and before you serve it. And then we
Put a
will,
lemon.
and when you serve it, you put some fresh lemon. You're going to see us eat it anyway, so in the meantime, we will play some music for you. 2 Spanish dances written for 4 hands. Here come my 2 favorite ladies. My godmother, who is my aunt, and my other aunt also. Well, actually, she's my mother's cousin. 2 crazy ladies here. And when the 3 of them get together, oh my goodness, you gotta have fun with them. Hola! Pase. Así intercambiamos términos.
Pero sí, son más fuertes, más fuertes. Hola.
Y así dicen que cada vez se van. Yo anoche me acordaba tanto de vos, no me quería mover de ahí. Porque.
Las tres locas.
Uy, sí,
Y parece, ¿sabes qué? Parece un sueño. A la mañana nunca nos juntamos.
No,
menos
es un
ilegal.
regalito que tenemos.
Salvo cuando yo me he ido a
Mi prima Marta. Poderosa.
Y
Y mi hermana. Porque es mi hermana, my sister-in-law.
Ella, acá te estamos filmando. Sin que
eso
sepa.
es una-
Cámara
Eso es una
sorpresa.
sorpresa.
Sí, tan cariñosa, sí.
Bueno,
No, yo soy
Muy bien.
cariñosa. Lo que pasa es que
Aquí está mi tía Marta que le va a poner
Hello.
el limón. She's going to put the fresh lemon, which is very important. And don't forget this part. You've got to put
tiene
lemon.
mucha.
Mucho jugo.
¿Vos
Mucho
tenés
lot of
limón?
juice.
Sí.
And there's my aunt Blanca, and she's putting the lemon there on hers, and limón. Y a ver cómo está.
A ver.
Ah, she's making me hungry. Yeah. Muy rico, exquisito,
muy rico.
exquisite. A ver, Nune.
Wow.
Tía. ¿Sí? Le das el,
Bellece.
le das el
Perfecto.
perfecto. Ok.
Muy exquisito.
ahora estoy yo.
Ahora, now my mother. Let's see. And then, of course, it's gonna be me, but ladies first.
Esto está.
Mm.
A ver.
It has so many flavors combined. Yeah,
Delicious.
delicious, like your mother's rice. Yes.
Very good.
Okay, so now I'm going to get my plate. Ahora voy a buscar mía. Mm.
Okay.
Ahora es mi turno. It's my turn. Mm.
Sí, en realidad pensé que era rico.
Mm. Mm. El
Ya.
limón le da un gusto.
Ya, el limón.
El limón.
Así se ha hervido arroz solo.
Sí, para mí si no tiene limón es como
Sí.
que...
The lemon is
Le
a
falta
key
algo.
ingredient. El limón es un ingrediente especial.
Está bien porque lo haces tan rico. La Marta
You
lo
can
hace
eat
muy
this every
rico,
day.
largo.
La clarita sabe.
Okay,
Ya sé a quién
now
sabe
we
la
have.
clarita.
A ver, ahora
Wow.
we have the torrejitas or torrejas.
Eh,
And
Zapallo. Gustavo, ¿y el zapallo lo hervís a
try
vapor?
one. Estas son al vapor. Mhm.
Para que no le llegue tanta agua.
Gracias.
Mm.
Qué rico.
A ver.
Guau.
Qué rico. La música.
Mm. La vainilla se
Realmente
siente el gusto
Es un
de
bocadillo.
vanilla.
limón.
It's a delicate bite.
Exquisite.
Sí, qué rica.
Muy rica.
The lemon.
El limón y las pasas de uva le dan la vida.
The lemon and the raisins give it a life, like she said. They're soft and creamy inside.
Sí,
You
yo
do
hice vez
want to
pasada
try these.
y yo le agregué un poquito más de azúcar porque el zapallo no era bueno. El
Right.
mío. Si no es bueno, le tenés que agregar un poquito más de azúcar.
Claro.
Pero era lindo.
linda.
Pero muy poquito.
Now for a true Spanish ending, my mother is going to play un paso doble, a pas deux, but it's not French. Un paso doble is a very Spanish sounding dance, very bright and happy, and so my grandmother used to play this, so she's going to play it for you now. And she has, a ver, look at the beautiful. Okay, so you have to sit down and throw it to the side.
I will play with this.
Ole!
Ole,
Ole!
ole,
Ole!
ole, niña, vamos. locas, Gustavo.
I told you they were crazy. Les dije que eran locas. Entonces, es cierto. Pero eso es lo que nos hace una familia interesante. That's what makes it a fun and interesting family. There's never a boring moment in the Tolosa and Prato del Prato family. And Rigotti. So we have Rigotti for my mother, Del Prato for Marta, and Tolosa for the two of us here. So ahora me falta de que cada una cuente alguna historia. So she's going to tell you a story about when I was little. A ver, contale.
Bueno, vivíamos casi al lado, no sé qué si dijiste, y cuando los padres lo retaban, se refugiaba en mi casa, iba corriendo y nos tocaba la puerta, nos tocaba todo, y ahí está Gustavo pidiendo auxilio, era chiquitito, y entonces le abríamos la puerta y quedaba ahí hasta que se calmara el ambiente en la casa.
Y después a veces me quedaba a dormir la siesta también.
Todos los días dormías la siesta ahí.
Ah,
Sí, era un nene mimado.
Claro, porque
Sí, sí.
vivíamos, no al lado, pero había una casa.
Dos casas de por medio,
Dos
dos
casas
casas.
de por medio.
Sí.
y la madre sabía que él hacía eso.
Por eso
Se
no
le
lo
da-
venían a buscar, descansaban un rato.
No, si yo lo veía cuando se iba, vos te crees que iba a ser chiquito.
Ah.
Era chiquito y
Claro.
tocaba la puerta de la
Donde se
ponen
ponían
las
las
cartas.
Ajá.
Sí, yo
Ay.
miraba que se había ido y ya sabía, ya cuando
Sí,
veía que
o sea,
estaba
descansaban
Yo me
un
perdí
rato.
toda esa infancia.
el torno, no estaba el horno para bollos.
No, entonces se quedaba y estaba, ahí está Gustavo pidiendo auxilio y vamos a abrirle. Bueno, que la puerta habitualmente estaba abierta porque antes no había problema. No, cerrábamos a la noche cuando nos acordábamos. Pero antes no había problema y vivíamos sobre una avenida, ¿no? Que era, pero bueno.
Now my
Porque la historia de
dad's
la
sister,
historia
Blanca, who is my dear aunt and my godmother, she remembers when I would arrive to her house, because even when I was little, I wanted to be a teacher. So I would arrive with a little briefcase, and I would teach all the kids in the house or at the school or at the neighborhood. So, ¿de qué te acuerdas entonces?
Me acuerdo cuando
Mira
llegaban en
mira ahí
el
la
Ford
cámara.
Falcon
Contale a la gente.
y llevaba su portafolio y tenía que tener unos cuantos alumnos, que él no sabía cuántos alumnos iba a tener.
Claro.
Así que subían todos los alumnos al Falcon, repartía sus hojas y después se llevaba todo el trabajo que habían hecho los alumnos y los clasificaba.
¿Y
Sí, sí.
el Falcon de quién era?
Del padre.
Ah,
Sí, era un auto grande y entonces ahí entraban todos los chicos.
¿y ahí a dónde iban?
Los
Quedaban,
encerraba.
él los encerraba, se encerraba con los alumnos
Era la escuelita adentro del auto.
adentro.
Claro.
Claro.
Sí, yo me acuerdo.
Sí,
Y ellos,
sí,
ellos me hacían caso.
Sí.
¿Y qué era?
No se me
¿Qué les
revelaba.
enseñaban?
Y matemática, no,
Ah.
matemática o lenguaje o qué sé yo.
Era al pedido.
Sí, no, yo tenía ya mi plan y todo.
Y te llevaban el app.
Sí, porque él lo fascinaba a los primos. Entonces estaban como fascinados y hacían
Y
caso.
muchos de ellos aprendieron a leer
Sí,
o
cuando
a escribir antes de ir a la escuela.
Sí,
Claro, con vos.
Sí.
Y la Carola multiplicaba y todo en un jardín.
Sí, igual que la María Labra, pero le enseñé yo,
Ah.
no un músico.
Claro.
Ok.
Bueno, yo tengo una historia que voy a hacerla muy cortita. Una noche estábamos ya cada uno en su habitación y
y estábamos todos leyendo, porque siempre nos decíamos, vos, qué estás haciendo? Bueno, a mí me gustaba mucho leer, a mi esposo también, en mi habitación, mi mamá también, y Gustavo en esa época era chico, habrá tenido 8 años, 9 años, y tenía en la habitación de él, y al lado eran 2 camitas y al lado estaba su hermana. Y sentimos todos que la nena, o sea mi hija Carolina, estaba llorando. Entonces me levanto yo y le pregunto qué le pasa, y el hermano la quería muchísimo, muchísimo. Entonces ella decía que todos leían menos ella, que ya no sabía leer. Entonces, bueno, al otro día se ve que eso le tocó muy el corazón a Gustavo, y al otro día ya la sentó y la puso A, E, I, O, 1, 2, y bueno, habrá pasado un mes más o menos, y la veo con un libro y que ella estaba leyendo. Entonces yo pensé que era que, como yo le contaba tantos cuentos, y no, ella estaba leyendo. En un mes o 2 meses él le enseñó a leer. Dice, porque no puede ser que todos leamos, dice, pobrecita, ella no sabe leer. Así que fue a la escuela y ya sabía leer. Pues siempre ha tenido alma de maestro, realmente, de maestro de corazón, ¿no? Y que siempre me acuerdo de eso, fue algo muy gracioso, muy emotivo también.
Bueno. Now the time has come to say goodbye, and this is the sad time, but I'm going to be back in about 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm going to say bye to my mother. Bye. It was very nice to see you. And to Marta.
Goodbye. Buen viaje.
Bueno,
buen
gracias.
Viaje. Todo muy lindo, hermoso.
Bueno, y Blanca. Bye. Chao. Y lo pasamos muy bien.
Muy
Dancing
bien.
together, bailando juntos.
Sí.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cuidado, te
Bye.
acomodas
Buen viaje.
tan fuerte.
Gracias. All right. Bye bye. Till soon. Oh, they're so cute. And they miss me because they're used to seeing me often, and I'm used to seeing them often. So, but the 3 of them keep themselves company, and I hope to be back soon. So I hope you have enjoyed this webinar, and I hope that you will let others know. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is under my name, Gustavo Tolosa.